And now, our feature presentation.
To infinity and beyond!
My name's Bond. James Bond.
That'll do, Pig.
Bad boys, what you gonna do?
Show you with the box. Who's in the box?
Damn! Ew! Get off of me! Ugh, I'm ill.
A lot of people go to college for 7 years.
I know. They're called doctors.
Houston, we have a problem.
We certainly have a problem. Welcome in, everybody, to 52/1995, your live movie conversation podcast that my mother now knows about and asked me where she can watch it, and where we dive deep into the movies of 1995. I'm your host, Cody, and I'm thrilled to be joined this week by my fantastic co-host, Ryan. Welcome in, Ryan.
What's up, slashers?
What's up? For those tuning in for the first time, we're so glad that you're here every week, 52 of those to be exact. We explore a different film from 1995. It could be a classic hit, quirky gem, somewhere right in the middle. And then we dive deep into this year's important releases. We discuss them in detail. And then I chat with my guests about their thoughts, experiences with the movie, and ask them a little bit about what they're watching now. Our current theme is You Love Me, You Really Love Me, where the movies that we're talking about are all romances. And today's movie of choice is The Bridges of Madison County. But before we jump into this week's movie, let's welcome Ryan. Ryan, again, thank you for joining us. Have you seen this film that we're talking about today?
I have never seen it. My mom also loved it, so I was aware of it from being a young child. My mom, one of the few things she always had in her bedroom was a copy of this book, too. So I got a copy of this book a long time ago and never read it. But for the podcast, I finally read The Bridges of Madison County.
Oh, wow.
So now I'm very familiar.
Yeah, you're going to be the most informed about this in this movie. Is the book much different than the movie?
I wouldn't say much. In fact, plot-wise, it's pretty similar. The structure's a little weird. You get a lot less of the kid stuff, and you get a lot of that at the end. Rather than throughout the movie. And then there's some character differences, details that they took out or changed or vibed different. But otherwise, like it's a pretty straightforward adaptation.
Yeah. Well, no experience with this movie for me. Never seen this before. I've never read the book. I don't even know if is this the most popular book or novel that Robert James Waller wrote?
Yeah, I didn't go deep into his Wikipedia page, but nothing else popped up. And I think that his his full-time work career might have been like as a professor and a bunch of other things. So this was something I think that it said he wrote. He had a cool idea wrote. It's not very long, 170 pages, a small book. Yeah, so like it's not a long read at all. And I think he wrote it for family and friends and some friends that they liked it a lot. And you should get it published. So I don't think he was a career author, just this.
Yeah, I do know that he did write a sequel to it.
No.
Yeah, I don't Bridges 2, even bridgier. I don't know, like Electric Boogaloo, like no, but I do think that it follows the Clint Eastwood character.
Well, I do think that in the book, and I'll definitely chime in as we talk about it. From the book that I think are relevant. One of the things I liked about the book, it didn't blow me away with its writing style, not intending to or anything, but it kind of shifts perspective between them almost like very quickly and seamlessly. So like you're hearing mostly Francesca's perspective of the story, but then for a few sentences, it'll be Robert's internal feelings as well. Sorry, I'm going to get Robert and Richard mixed up.
No, you're right, Robert.
Okay, Robert, because the author's name is Robert as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. So so you'll get more of his at the beginning you get a lot more of him and who he is and what his life's like and everything. And then throughout the love affair, you get a lot more of her with just a little bit of his thoughts and feelings internally sprinkled in. But it kind of like shifts between them pretty smoothly.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think what I did read, the brief thing I did read about the sequel was that it followed Robert I think more than it followed Francesca in the
Mhm.
book. So because there was so much like clamoring for more on both of these characters after the popularity of the book, they were like, we need more. So he's like, I get it. I'll write another thing.
Yeah,
Jeez.
don't pay me twice.
Yeah, seriously.
Robert is the more like fleshed out character too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's more going on with him. Where Francesca's like internal life and feelings during the affair are just as rich as his. But other than being Italian for some reason that I wish that they didn't do, I don't know what's interesting about her except that she's stuck in kind of this loveless, lonely, aimless life with regrets. You know,
Is she Italian in the book?
she is Italian in the book. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about it a little bit more. And I'll give you some of the like stats on it, and then we'll go into our categories. So, it's called The Bridges of Madison County, not Bridges of Madison County. It is The Bridges of Madison.
Mhm.
Just want to make sure everybody knows that. It came out June 2nd, 1995. It was directed by Clint Eastwood, and it was written by Richard LaGravenese, based on the novel by Robert James Waller. The cast is kind of a small cast. Really, you're with two characters for the majority of the movie, and that is Clint Eastwood as Robert Kincaid and Meryl Streep as Francesca Johnson. But we do have these other characters, the family characters, Francesca's grown son and grown daughter, who are coming back to town to go over their mother's will. She just passed away. So Annie Corley plays Carolyn Johnson, and Victor Slezak play Michael Johnson. And then her husband, that we do see briefly and has some, lines, is Jim Haney as Richard Johnson. So we got all the Johnsons in here and one Kincaid. But those were the main cast for this movie. The synopsis for this movie is a moving love story about a photographer on assignment to shoot the historic bridges of Madison County. He meets a housewife whose husband and children are away on a trip, and the film traces a brief affair that is never sordid, but instead one of two soulmates who have met too late. This movie had a budget of $22 million, and boy, did it rake in the money. It made $182 million. So, yeah, pretty crazy. And the critics love this movie, too. On Rotten Tomatoes, it is ranked as 90%. IMDb is the lowest that I have at 7.6 out of 10, and Letterboxd is a 4.0 out of 5. Roger Ebert did love this movie. He did have some negative things to say, not like the worst things, but he did give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. He said Streep and Eastwood weave a spell, and it is based on that particular knowledge of love and self that comes with middle age. Younger characters might have run off together; older ones might have dared to declare themselves. So Streep and Eastwood seem to have found a nice little middle ground there that just worked for this. To Roger Ebert. And he also says, this is from Jonathan Rosenbaum of the Chicago Reader. He says, despite all his craft and sincerity, Eastwood and screenwriter LaGravenese can't quite turn Robert James Waller's cardboard bestseller into flesh and bone. He did not. That was the only negative review I could find on the of the main critics on Rotten Tomatoes. So,
well, I'll add that on Wikipedia, there's the Janet Maslin review, which is positive, but like it's it's so snarky as it's positive. Like the movie has surprising decency, but she really rips apart at some point in here. She really rips apart the actual book. Eastwood locates a moving, elegiac love story at the heart of Mr. Waller's self-congratulatory overkill. So there's a lot of like trashing on the book, and then she seems like begrudgingly like, it's a pretty good movie. They really like figured out how to make that that trashy book like kind of a decent film.
I do. Janet comes in with some really good ones sometimes from the New York Times. I think she's trying to be what's her face, the most famous one.
Back in the day, like
yeah.
God, what's her name? Hedy.
I can't
Hedy
remember.
Lamarr?
What is it?
Hedy Lamarr?
Was she
that might be an actor.
She's an actress. Yeah. I can't think of who the person is that I'm trying to think of, but yeah, I think she goes for that a little bit sometimes, but I always enjoy a Janet Maslin review. They're fun.
Mhm.
This movie does have quite a little bit of a legacy, like I said. Meryl Streep was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for this. She did not win, but one of her many, like 17 nominations. So good for her. This is also included on AFI's 100 Years, 100 Passions list. So I don't know where it ranked on their AFI 100 list for love or romances. This also garnered 2 Golden Globe nominations for Best Film and Best Actress. And there is a musical that is based on the book of this that came out and was on Broadway for a few years, or I think for a little while, and it was kind of mixed reviews on that, but it was nominated for a bunch of Tonys, and I think it even won a couple. So I think that came out in like 2014 or so. Haven't listened to any of the music on that. Would be interested though.
Yeah, it can work really well on stage. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
think sweeping romantic passion, even in the '90s, but much less so today, it's like really hard to tell this style of love story on film. We're just like too cynical of an audience, I guess. Too up our own asses to kind of like be swept away with the romance. But that stuff is made for stage, so I
yeah.
could see that like really popping off and being very compelling on stage, more so than on film.
Yeah. I just wonder, like movies like this, and it is a frequent talking point on here where we talk about a drama or a romance and like how they don't get made nowadays without some other thing behind it, whether it's an action romance comedy,
Yeah.
or it's thrown like there are all these blockbusters. But like I don't know if studios are willing to put in, like $22 million, which would probably be like 50 million now, just to see if it might turn into a $182 million thing. So I don't know why they're just less willing to do that. But, you get something like this, it catches fire. I don't know. I don't feel like we have too many of those, like airplane novels, as if they're not like thrillers or woman in the window kind of books.
Right. I mean, everything just got so subgenred and like
Yeah.
just kind of siloed into different subgenres that now there is like you either read romance books. There's not a popular top 100 romance book, right?
Yeah.
And so some things like fantasy and spy stuff will still always be up there or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't feel like everybody's gotten behind a single romance forward story in a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
We need it. I
yeah.
call for it all the time. All right, let's break it down. What are some standout scenes that really stick out to you?
Yeah, so it's kind of difficult to do. The pacing is a big like star of this movie. It's brave enough to not rush things, which I think works a lot. So I kind of broke down everything that happened into 4 days and what came
Yeah.
after. So it is like day 1, day 2, day 3. What are these days about? What's accomplished? What are the most memorable parts of each day? Is kind of how I thought about the structure.
I think after I watched it, I did my notes a little bit later than like a few days after, and I got a couple of my days confused on what happens on what day.
Mhm.
So you might have to help me out with that. But I do want to, one of the things I want to talk about that are not good scenes to me, and they bookend this movie, are all the scenes between the children. I think they're the worst.
I do. I do think later on there's one moment that I do appreciate it. Those are mostly not in the book. I think that they're kind of the book is framed as a frame story and like it's a true story. Like there's an author's like introduction that's like, I met 2 people, brother and sister, and they wanted to bring me this story. They thought I could write it, and but they were scared to let it out unless somebody wrote it correctly. And I fell in love with this story, and I traveled, kind of thing. Like, and here's the story they told me about their parents, even though it's all fictional.
Yeah.
So you don't get a lot of like the kids doing that stuff until like later on, and then especially we can just talk about out of the gate. The son is an asshole. He's so shitty.
Yeah. He's
Sorry
the
if your
worst.
mom's gonna listen to this.
No. I tried to tell her in a way that she could never find this. So
Yeah.
we're good. We're good. But anyway, yeah, the son was the one that bugged me the most. Yes, he's an asshole, but he's a terrible actor. And Eastwood has a way of like picking out these people. He goes for people that, at times he's like, oh, they're not actors, or they're not they're more real life people, and I just think he missed completely on this one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he's not good. The sister's a little better, but I mean,
Little
the
bit.
son also, like, there's just no need to even add it to the movie where the son's like, just little details where he's like cremated. Nobody in my family's ever been cremated. We're gonna ignore that. We're gonna bury him
Yeah.
like some dad. And I was like, whoa, you're gonna ignore your mother's last like will and testament?
She could have been crazy though.
Yeah, right. She's probably crazy, right? Like, and what else does he say? There's something else that just like kind of horrible. Just in that opening scene. God, I don't remember what it is. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And anytime that they find these they find out more and more about Robert from her, he's just like, ugh, gross, my mom.
Yeah, I'm like, Mom, like, I'm the little prince, and I feel like she cheated on me as much as she cheated on
that was it. That was the line that I was just like, that was a weird one. Did not like that at all. So, yeah, I don't know. I wanted to get that out of the way, and hopefully neither one of your or any of your scenes didn't include those. I think you're frozen, but
yeah.
Hopefully you'll be back. There we go. Well, lost them. That's okay. But yeah, chat, anti-cremation felt very Italian Catholic, which I was just like, they're in the middle of Iowa. I don't know how much like they're adhering to those kinds of things. Hopefully we'll get him back here soon because I'm very interested in his takes and how he broke down each scene. But yeah, talking about these kids, like I don't like it as the framing device for this plot. I think that it doesn't do the story justice. And I think you could have just simply told this as like, maybe you do have the kids introduce it. Because I honestly, I don't mind the part about the last wishes and everything, but like, that's really all you need to do. You don't need them like saving their marriage or, calling the divorce attorney and all that stuff. But yeah, you're right. Thinking of the mom being Italian, it would be pretty unconventional. So, but love is love. Last wishes are last wishes. You don't even have to burn me. You just, like I said, just throw me down a hill, let me decompose, save a lot of people a lot of money. This is not my last will and testament, but you can, I mean, it's being recorded, so you might as well just take it. If you need to burn me, you can burn me, I guess. Anyway, I think the first thing that we have after the family leaves to go to the Illinois State Fair, which is where my namesake is come, which was a part that was, really bugged me, was that they were from Iowa going to the Illinois State Fair. I don't care that they are, even if it's like on the line or whatever. That's weird, right? Like I'm a fair kid. I've been to some fairs, and yeah, I don't remember like do other people cross state lines to go to these fairs? I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough. Now I'm questioning myself on this the state fair thing. Do people cross state lines to compete at state fairs? If only I had a researcher. That's okay. We'll keep moving on. The first scene that I have from this movie, here we go. I think Ryan's come back now. Here we go.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, you're good.
Reboot the internet.
I was just going on about how I hated those kids. So
okay, yeah.
And I didn't. Yeah, I figured I could just go on about that. I just figured it was an unnecessary way to get the plot going, especially because, like, not necessarily an unnecessary way to get the plot going, but them having their own side plot was weird too. Like their little marriages or failing marriage, and then him. Yeah, like I didn't need that.
I mean, that's what I ended up liking the most. I did like them on the picnic table a little bit, and I did like it, but it wasn't necessary, and it didn't really add that much. I liked their take on what it was like to discover this part of their mother. after her death, and then what that reflected on their own lives, because both he's kind of realizing by the end of the movie, maybe I should give my wife more thrills. She's kind of realizing maybe I should go find my own thrills. I don't want to do this. They both kind of mentioned like, hey, we stayed together because that's what we do as like good Iowan farm folk, but now that we realized our mom was able to have this and that we can accept that it's a good thing, maybe we should re-examine how we understand relationships as well. But none of that's necessary. It doesn't help anything. I do think the only thing it adds is it gives a plot element that is kind of important where at the beginning of the movie that they don't end up together. That Meryl Streep and Clint Eastwood do not end up together, and that you're going to see this big epic love affair, but you're not going to be spending like will they, won't they at the end. You're just going to feel the feelings. And I think that's maybe a bold choice. Some people would say, well, wouldn't it be more exciting for the audience if like we didn't know what was going to happen? But I think it actually kind of lends, it shows a lot more confidence in the story that they don't need to have suspense at the end.
Which is crazy though, because there is still like built up suspense at the end. In the end scene, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but like they're not going to get together at all. But even still, like you're in that final scene, like do it, and you're wanting them to get together, and it's I don't know, that's really good. I really like that. Well,
it tells you from the beginning this is a not a happily ever after story necessary. Like you come to peace with it, like the characters do, but you're not going to see a fairy tale romance that ends that way. I like that aspect of it, and the book kind of does that in its own way. But this movie is 20 minutes too long, so we can get the kids out. I mean, that's an easy like 8-10 minutes right there. We can take back.
Yeah, I could have done it with a little less of the son just being like gross, and feeling like that. But yeah, I understand the aspects of it, and like I was saying, I was like it gets us into the story. It's a good framing of this plot, like putting us.
I will add in the book. She says, "Hey, I want you to go read this notebook of my love affair. I want you kids to go to read it at the kitchen table." And then, like 10 pages into the notebook, she's like, "We fucked everywhere, even at the table you're sitting at now." And I'm like, "Oh, come on, Mom, that's a lot.
Like, that's a little bit much. That's much. Yeah. Hey, keep it real. She's keeping it real. I love it." What's your first real standout scene though?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess
you did day ones or whatever.
Yeah, day one. It's the whole bridge aspect. And then they have fun, and it's the bridge in the first day, and then it's their late night conversation after dinner. Those two things I think are where the relationship gets into some like flirting. I love that they take it so slow because there is some excitement. I do think day one's my favorite part of the movie. And you can split the days into like a relationship narrative. And the day one is about anticipation and thrills and butterflies in your stomach kind of thing. So yeah, those two things of her like kind of just watching him at the bridge, him clumsily flirting. Yeah, then they go and they cook together, and she tells funny stories, and they get to know each other a little bit. And then at the end, like after a few more drinks than they ever planned to have together, things start to get into like, hey, are you happy? Like in the big moment at the end, would you leave your husband? That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's man, so much happens in there. And even when Robert arrives on the farm, you can almost tell immediately that there's just a little bit of excitement in her that somebody is here. Like I can drop these rugs that I'm beating on my front porch, and I can talk to this this new stranger who's, I know everybody pretty much that lives around here, and I don't know this guy, so I'm already interested. This is already going better than I thought it would on my 4 days that I am away from.
Oh yeah, thank God something happened.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you could tell that a little bit. I mean, that's why I think she is so willing to talk to him, because I think at any other point in her life, like if her husband was just away at work or something like that, she would have been a little bit more standoffish, a little bit like, yep, you just go that way. And that's how you get to the bridge. And maybe even, do you think that she's purposely telling him bad directions so that she can just be like, oh yeah, let me ride with you?
I don't remember from the book. It's been like a week since I read that scene or whatever. I don't think it's that purposeful. But there might be I think there is a like, I don't know, I shouldn't like just get in the car with this guy, right? But I don't know, I could help him out, and I've got nothing else to do. That would make the day more interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
I also think a little bit like uh that she doesn't get out that much. Like I think she might go to town to get some groceries and things like that. But like when she's giving them the details of, oh yeah, you got to pass the mean yellow dog on the way here if you pass that, and then the dog's not even yellow. So that tells me like she doesn't
yeah.
even get out that much.
Mhm.
And this is, you know, a little
Well, she's just
exciting for her.
deeply uninterested, right? She doesn't see any depth or beauty of any of that around her. Not that that's a flaw in her character or anything, but like she's like, yeah, yellow dog, white dog, whatever, yappy dog. I don't care enough. I'm not invested in these like
Yeah,
details around here.
that's probably a better way to look at it, honestly, than
But yeah, in the book too, she doesn't mention having any other friends. When she talks about Iowan people, she obviously knows all the neighbors because they all do the things, but she feels probably part of a community. I don't think that she needs to be Italian. And I definitely don't think Meryl Streep needs to have that accent. But one thing that does help in the movie is I could understand in a small community that even if she's been there for 20 years at this point, she's still always a little bit of an outsider.
yeah. And are there and this is a history question for you. Are people less friendly towards Italians after World War II because of
I have no clue.
like they are to Germans? I feel like people were a little bit, and especially to Japanese people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, I don't know for sure. I mean, I guess the only insight I could give is I think that like I do think post World War II is when Italians started being hated a lot less. I think more in the early 20th century, like when there's just a wave after wave of different like country of origin immigrants. The ones who had been there the longest ended up being more assimilated and accepted. So, I mean, this is the era in the 60s. I mean, you already have like a lot of Frank Sinatra and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, not that that's everything, but it's just more, I think that Frank Sinatra wasn't seen as a second-class citizen or a non-white person in any like, you know, huge way.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
but in Iowa, and then Iowan farm town, I don't know. Like, you know, I don't know what they thought about it. They don't talk about the war much, obviously, in the little short, small like slice of 4 days we get.
Yeah, I like that that immediate interaction that they get. I think Clint Eastwood's doing a really good job of being this character. Like I feel like this is almost a stretch for him.
I feel like any acting's a little bit of a stretch for Clint Eastwood. I'm not the biggest fan. I don't hate his gut. Well, I don't care for him that much actually, but he's pretty good in this. I mean, this is one of Meryl Streep's weaker performances, and it's one of his stronger performances.
Yeah,
he still clears him by a few levels of acting in this movie, right? And his direction is really good. And I was looking up, and I was surprised. This is like his 19th directorial film in 1995. It's crazy.
That guy,
he's been directing that long.
He just pumps them out too.
Yeah.
I think he filmed this in 36 days.
Well, yeah, that's crazy. He just did 1 or 2 takes each, and just filmed it. And I think he filmed it pretty well. I think it's directed very well.
I do.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I do agree with that. I like it. I think it was shot really well. I think it's edited very well too. And I mean, the direction, I mean, I don't know how much direction there is when you only have 2 people for most of it, and you're one of them. But he's, you know, a lot of people like to work with Clint Eastwood, even though he is a 1 or 2 take guy. He's never really loud. He doesn't yell. He's not he doesn't get frustrated with people. He likes a more natural reaction from the actors and is willing to find that within these people and kind of lets them grow their own characters there on set. Whereas like you talk about like a David Fincher who does like 102 takes just to see somebody get out of a car properly. And right. So this is like the vast differences.
Truly. I do think that he's pretty good. I might have been the well might have been a little poisoned by reading the book. Clint Eastwood without a lot of effort can definitely with that face have this stony, you know, stony surface with like under like some deep sorrow underneath. And so that goes a long way in the movie. I think in the book, the guy's supposed to be more shy than he is. Okay. It felt a little jarring that he's kind of sharing wisdom and poetry with her, like in their second conversation together, you know, apropos of nothing. And he does have like those still waters run deep thing in the book or whatever. But also I remember in the book, Francesca, like in her own thoughts, thinks a lot about how she likes how feminine he is. like that she likes that the masculine bravery to be feminine is something that she talks about that this person has, the character has, and also he's more hippie in the book than he is in the movie, and the book and the movie make it a point multiple times to be like, but he's not a hippie. He might have long hair for Iowa, but he's not a hippie because that would be a bridge too far, right?
Yeah,
Madison, a bridge of Madison County too far.
That was the thing. I was like, this is Clint Eastwood's version of a hippie. And that's as far as it's going to go.
Yeah. And so there are some lines that were kind of funny to watch and where I was like, oh, he hated saying that line, but he just be the character, right? Like when he's like talking about the lines of like, oh, he owns her, or she owns him. He's got some like kind of polyamorous challenging the world. Stop it, guys. Sorry, there's dogs here. The kind of vibes or whatever. I was like, that's not Clint Eastwood, and he doesn't like saying that.
Yeah, that was the weirdest part, but good for him,
Yeah, he's got to do his job. I will say in the book he's a vegetarian, and then there's also there's like a little side note where Francesca talks about it and was like, yeah, I think Iowans and Americans are really weird about meat. Like, I would like to have a vegetarian meal every now and then, but there's no way anybody around here would even think of that. And she also calls out, this is the animal rights part of me that just wants to bring it up, where she's like, I do think it's a little weird that they dote on their cattle a lot and then sell them to a slaughterhouse in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, you get, I don't know if you caught the one little line when her kid comes back and she's like, I couldn't sell him, Ma, because she loves the cow so much.
Yeah. In
the book, she sells them. Like they win the ribbon. She takes the ribbon home. The cow, the prize winning the cow gets sold off. But they changed that because they thought it might seem a little cruel, I guess. I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah. But it's funny, in the book he is a vegetarian. That was like a convenient detail they took out.
Nice. Yeah, there's no way Clint Eastwood would not eat meat.
No.
He rubs that on his skin every night before he goes to bed. Yeah, so the first day she does like you were just saying, he starts asking those tough questions that she's not ready to hear. Mm-hmm. In this, that we are having fun, we're having drinks, don't ask me about my personal life. And then the mood changes a little bit and he's like, hey, we're good, you don't have to answer these things. Stepped over the line.
Yeah, and then some of he's got like a James Spader vibe in the book, and he's supposed to in the movie too. Like I'm thinking of like Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Like there's a little like he's so kind of evolved that he doesn't realize that he's prying because he's kind of above all of these like proprietary things, doing his own thing. And it's like, like a wise, like, kind of a Grizzly Adams guy coming out of the woods, like trying to have polite conversation. Doesn't mean any harm. It's just been so long since he's talked to like a normal person in society. Yeah. So he's kind of making those mistakes innocently, not predatorily, which is hard, like a hard line for the movie to walk.
Is it in this conversation that he tells the story about her hometown? The first time? I think so. Yeah. Which I like that he had actually been, that he is so world traveled that he actually has been to her small town in Italy, which
I know. Yeah. That comes out later in the movie and is an important moment when they're being intimate together. She wants to hear that story again.
Oh yeah.
Because it kind of resets her to being a young woman falling in love with the first time, and also resets her decision to go back with this GI to Iowa and have this life that she's kind of already lost a lot of, right? So she gets to channel that youthfulness in a way that he can connect to. I don't think that's in the book. I think he mentions going to Italy, but never making it to Naples,
Yeah. All right. So day 2.
Yeah. And then that day ends with her deciding the big decision to go to the bridge and leave a note saying, come back and talk Yates with me some more.
Yes. Yates. Mm-hmm. Very important that we keep saying Yates, because that's not the freaking poet that he puts at the beginning of his book, his little photo book. It pisses me off.
Oh, is it a different poet? I thought that was.
It's God, who is it?
I thought that was something he wrote, because that's not in the book. So I thought that was a poem the character wrote.
No, it was God. I'm gonna have to look it up because
I didn't recognize it. So maybe that makes sense.
But it made me so mad. I was like, you've been talking about Yates the whole time, and you want to dedicate this freaking book to, it was Byron. That's who it was.
It was Byron, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I think they only talk about Yates in the book as well. They really talk a lot about.
Just put a Yates quote there. That made me
mad. Yeah, totally. Especially because it's like a long, slow sequence of like, hey, remember everything that happened in the movie you just watched? Well, so do they. Like, except forgot.
Except for that little thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, she leaves the note on the bridge, and he arrives at the bridge the next day, and I wasn't sure what like he just grabs that thing off the bridge and just like crumples it up, doesn't read it.
Yes,
Which
that makes more sense in the book. She talks a lot, like she's kind of having this internal monologue. The first day they go there, he's setting up all these tripods in the middle of a. He basically, like, she's seeing him in his element and how careful. She keeps talking about how graceful he is, and quiet and like at one with the place. Because that first day at the bridge, he doesn't take any pictures. He just looks at angles, looks at light, looks at the water and stuff like that to plan for taking pictures later on. So then the second day, the book talks about how he shows up to capture, like every photographer, especially on film or whatever, like the 30 to 40 minutes of great light you get. So he's setting everything up real quick. And I think it's in the river in that scene. So it's kind of like, precarious to try to get his shot. And then all of a sudden he looks up and he sees a piece of paper that's there. He's like, oh, you're fucking up my shot. I got to go get that piece of paper down because I've only got like 20 more minutes or I'm going to lose my window for So he runs up there and he grabs it and puts it in his pocket and doesn't read it right away because he doesn't care what it is. He just doesn't want to litter and he doesn't want to he's got to catch his light. So it's kind of weird that he did it that way in the movie because it's not well explained.
Yeah. It would have been nice just to take a glance at the letter before.
Yeah. I don't think he knows it's a letter.
Yeah.
I think he just thinks it's like a flyer or some dumb thing that's in the way of his shot. But that's not clearly like stated. So then it's kind of a wasted thing. But yeah, they have the phone call to her. The little side thing that's not a big deal in the book, but is important in the movie, where the lady in the diner gets shamed for having an affair. Meryl Streep goes to buy a new dress, so she's getting excited, and there's a little bit of like, once she wrote that note, it's basically this internal communication of like, hey, let's do this. Let's do Last Night again, but let's take it further. We both know. And so then like the phone calls are a little like kind of giddy anticipation for that, for the consummation. Because the second she's at the bridge, like they are full on flirting really hard. It's all foreplay at this point. And then he takes a bath in her house, and then she takes a bath in his bath, like it was like, oh my God, his naked body was just there. And then she comes down in that dress, and then there's like full on an affair at that point.
Yeah, that they dress. Is this the dance scene too?
Mm-hmm. This is a long dance scene, which is really nice.
It is a nice dance scene. I do hate every time that they kiss in this movie. I think it's neither one of them know how to kiss each other. I'm not saying they don't know how to kiss. They don't know how to kiss each other.
They both have weird mouth shapes that weren't made.
They do.
Yeah,
it was so weird. They sleep together this night, right?
I think so. Yes, I wrote FCK really big at the end of day 2. So yeah.
I also don't like her dress.
I don't either. I thought it was really nice. I don't remember how it was described in the book, but I kind of had an image in my head. Well, that it was a pink dress, that it was like not a young girl's bright pink dress, but that it was like a pale pink thing. I don't know, that it just sounded prettier in the book. And then when I saw it, maybe they decided that was a little true to 1960s Iowa, that she could only push it so far, as far as like wearing something showy.
I did read somewhere that Meryl Streep, like, not only for her accent, but also wanted her character to kind of appear like the Italian movie stars of that time, like Sophia Loren. And I was like, I don't see Sophia Loren in any of this. This is whatever you've got going on, ain't it?
Yeah.
So
Meryl Streep is such a good cast too. Not only is she always a brilliant actor in everything she does, but she throughout her whole career has like maintained this very normalized plain beauty. She's believable as an Italian woman who came and lived in Iowa for 20 years, while also being a person that of a certain age, like Clint Eastwood or anybody may not notice her as beautiful immediately, but then once they see her, listen to her talk, watch her move, that kind of thing, could all of a sudden find yourself enamored with her. So I think both physically they both look good parts, except that he's a little older than he needs to be. But
yeah, and she you're right. Meryl Streep can also, like, I think she's supposed to be in her 40s in this. And I think that's what her age was at the time, like early 40s. But you could have convinced me she was in her 30s. You could have convinced me she was in her 50s.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep kind of has that look about her to where she could play a little bit younger, a little bit older. She's mid 70s now. But you wouldn't, I don't know. I think she looks great for 75. She looks awesome.
Absolutely.
And has always kind of looked awesome at whatever age she is. So, no,
And Clint Eastwood was like 65 when this movie was filmed,
mm-hmm.
which is crazy because that was 30 years ago. Is he alive?
He's 95.
He's
and
95.
He just put out a movie this
and he
past
just
year.
put out a movie. He just keeps doing it, man.
That's why he's still alive. I think it's just he keeps moving. That guy never stops.
Absolutely.
His pants just keep getting higher, though.
They do.
He had very high pants at one point in this movie.
Yeah, well, the butt keeps getting flatter, so the pants got to get higher.
Yeah.
So day 2, like day 1's the anticipation and the kind of the flirting. Day 2's the consummation, and then like the next day we get, I think is the weakest part of the movie is like bliss. Like they both committed, and they drive out of town to have a perfect day together. It's one of the shortest of the 4 days they have together. It is the shortest. And it's the least convincing as far as like how truly happy they are, lost in time they are. I mean, people might disagree with that, but I think the anticipation of the first day and meeting each other was done so well.
Yeah.
The lead up to the consummation was like tense and hot and horny and like celebratory when they finally like, come together. And so this is supposed to be like they're ignoring their time has frozen and they're just going to live in their bliss for a minute. And that's when they go to the picnic, to the bar. And they fuck a lot, and then it just goes back to the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like I actually don't mind the picnic. The bar was fine. Like you said, it's not like you said, weakest of the days. That we get, because even the fourth
I agree.
day,
I just think that like for the sweeping romance, especially for 2 hours and 10 minutes, because it goes on long. Why was the shortest part us like enjoying them be so happy?
Mm-hmm.
I liked you guys covered Before Sunrise last week, right? And so there's not the whole movie, but there's scenes in this that feel that way, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just them having conversations and connecting with each other and disagreeing and kind of like not understanding each other, but then encouraging each other and learning about each other and liking each other a lot. And so I could have maybe used a little more of that going on in like the middle bliss era, day 3, when they finally decided to do this crazy thing and they're just going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And but I like day 4. When we get to day 4, it's that's like the realization thing.
Yes,
it's like,
this is the deterioration. Like we can't stay, time keeps moving. We can't pretend like, this isn't coming to an end. And then there's a lot of fear and anger at themselves or mostly her at herself comes out at him. And then he's kind of just like, what? I didn't think anything bad would ever happen.
I think I think on the 4th day, the fight that they have, before her friend comes over and interrupts and he just goes upstairs to fall asleep, which I thought is funny. I know he can't do anything else at that point, but
well, it kept confusing me because I thought after that happens that was day 5 now.
Yeah.
And I just had to convince myself, no, he just sleeps during the day and then she finally gets rid of the neighbor. And the next thing, the stuff that happens is all on day 4.
Yeah. It's the final dinner scene. But no, I
the
love that
fight is great. It's one of the best parts of the movie.
Yes. Yeah. That is when I think Meryl Streep is like just outshining Clint Eastwood 100%. Like she's really she beats on his chest at one point. Like,
go to hell, yeah. She's doing great there, and I do think that in the day 1 stuff that I like a lot of what Meryl Streep is. I mean, I've said she's my favorite actor of all time before. I don't know if that's technically true, but I mean, she's up there as one of the best actors I've ever seen. She does so much with her face, little things with her face when she's being awkward and nervous around him on day 1. That's quintessential Meryl Streep acting, like little tiny face actings and little deliveries and head cocks and stuff like that. She's so good at. In the fight scene, she does the opposite, which she's also good at, which is my face is still and I'm intense and I'm raising my voice,
One thing I noticed this time, watching Meryl Streep, you're right. She's one of the greatest actresses of all time, if not the greatest actress of all time. But like, it is stuff that she does with her hands and her hair and the faces that she makes. It reminds me so much of Kristen Stewart. And Kristen Stewart is always like in her awkward, like that is all Kristen Stewart can do. Not that that's all she can do. She's a great actress too. But like very early in Kristen Stewart's time, she's always just messing with her hair. And I was like, did she just pick that acting style up from like Meryl Streep? And
I mean, I bet if you're a young actress,
you're like
Kristen Stewart's era, you're like, I don't know, how do I become a good actor? Let me watch Meryl Streep is a pretty good way.
Every time she did it, she like did a couple moments where Meryl Streep's like leaning on her hands at some point, and I was like, man, she's so awkward, and like it just reminds me of Kristen Stewart. so much. So.
I can believe that. It's such an art form that she must have instinctively. Because first of all, like a lot, especially young actors, they think they need to project everything and perform everything. So I just noticed a lot of times where Meryl Streep is just making little noises, or like says yes with just like a little squeak that you kind of hear I could hear as an audience, and I understood what it meant. But it, like, she didn't have to fully say yes or make it loud or known. It was just a little tilt of the head and a tiny sound you heard was the way she did. It was like so much more natural than having to perform everything so loudly. So she's so good at those subtle moments, even like weird head cocks and go like eye movements or whatever, but not doing it too much that it's distracting and wild, I guess.
One thing I will say about her in this role, and whether or not she should have been like, doing the Italian accent or anything like that, it didn't really, but she seemed like she was an American to me. And yes. I don't know how I don't know how Meryl Streep conveys that in her acting, but she did it in a way that I was like, yeah, she is not an American. Like it is those head cocks and the eye rolls and
yeah, I can see that. I can see that being more like European, like style of communication and stuff. A lot more like subtle head movements and things like that. That could be true. I wanted her to just be an American because it was cooler to me, because it gives her this backstory where she made a youthful decision to be swept away to the land of America, be an exciting place that she was excited to see, and then somehow got swindled and stuck in a life she didn't want. Whereas if she was a 1960s housewife that just was stuck in a life she didn't want, that would make so much more sense. I mean, I don't know. It would have more to say, and she could also drop the accent, do better acting, and then us as an American audience, who the movie was mostly intended for, could see ourselves and our aunts and our cousins and our neighbors in that character a little more than this this kind of silly situation where not that it's never happened before, but where this Italian woman just was disappointed by cornfields when she wanted Hollywood.
Yeah. I think we might get a little bit more of that, more of a suburban feel or urban feel when Todd Haynes does Far From Heaven. Have you ever seen Far From Heaven?
No, yeah, I know the movie though.
Yeah, Julianne Moore falls in love with, is married but falls in love with a black man. So then there's another layer of that on the outside of that. So
I wonder even if because it doesn't come up that much in the book, she just happens to be Italian. They never mention her accent at all. When she speaks, there's no way they write dialect at all or any in there. I wonder if that's another Clint Eastwood thing. It was like, this is not going to be a goddamn, a takedown of a traditional American society, and this isn't going to be about feminism and women's lib. It's going to be about love. Goddamn it!
He knows his love though.
Yeah.
Fight scene, the final dinner scene.
Yeah, heartbreak. It's the breakup, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the breakup gets strung on for the next 30 minutes, but it's basically when they actually say the words, "Do you want to do this? Why not?"
Yeah, because they're packing. She packs at one point. She packs suitcases, and they're all on board. And a little bit of wonders while she's packing those suitcases, has she already made up her mind that she's not going to? I'm going through with packing these, but I'm not going to go through with this.
Well, I read it as that the interruption by the seemingly nice but boring neighbor is an intrusion of her regular life into this passionate affair. And then as much as she wasn't happy, she was fighting, and angry and upset, when the neighbor showed up, she's like, oh my God, yeah, that's right. That's what I hate about this place. I have to be bored for 3 hours when I'd rather be doing something fun and exciting and passionate. And so then the neighbor leaves and she's like, well, fuck it. I'm not going to sit around kitchens talking about how hot it is in the summer for the rest of my life. I'm going to run away. And she grabs the suitcases, but then over dinner, calms down and has to think about the reality of what this means for her life.
Yeah. And then, after that, Clint Eastwood's pretty disappointed, runs out, delivers his line, and that's it. And then the world comes back to her the next day. Her family comes back. She seems like nothing's happened, nothing exciting is what she tells them. And then they go.
I have a real quick addition. One of the things that starts to happen is she finds it so in the book, and it's kind of put in the movie pretty well. She's like, oh, I guess, yeah, why can't I have a beer? And throughout the movie, he offers her beer. They don't get drunk. I mean, actually, maybe the first night they kind of do.
I was about to say they get the brandy out and everything.
Brandy out, which I have more to say about the brandy later on because it's one of my favorite parts about the book. But that night when they're at the dinner, he says, "Do you want me to get you a beer?" And she says no. Like she's been offered beer 4 times by him in this movie, and she's always like, "Yeah, I would like that," because she's saying yes to the thing. And then all of a sudden, it's the first time you see her say no when offered a beer because she's sobered up metaphorically as well. Like she's like, "No, I don't want beer. No, I don't want to have feelings anymore. No, I don't want to get crazy or be risky. And, everything's crashing down on me."
Yeah. No, I like that. I didn't pick up on that. I just thought she liked beer.
Yeah, well, I think there's more of it in the book of like, not like she never talks about how drunk she is, and it's never like she's never had beer before. It's just, again, like when the pickup truck rolls into her life, oh, finally something's going to happen. Finally, something's interesting is going to happen.
Yeah. And then the only thing I have left is the raining scene in town.
The raining scene is all that really matters left, yeah.
Yeah. And
even though there's a lot more.
He looks like such a wet dog.
He really does.
It's the saddest, wettest dog I've ever seen. And it's just Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, like I said, we know how it's going to end up. But when he's standing in the rain, and I've read the book, and like I was like, oh my God, he's so close. Is he going to keep coming? Is he going to say something? Is the movie going to be different? And you have that, and then you have an even bigger, longer, like heartbreaking scene where she's like, he's at the stoplight, and her and her husband are behind him in the rain. And I never really caught it in the book, and I assume it's purposeful in this movie. Is he waiting? Is he like, he's not going when the light turns green because he knows she's right there?
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe if I wait a little longer, she'll call my name out. She'll open the door. She'll run and jump in. And she almost does. But eventually she sees the tail light turn on, and he's decided that, he can't wait any longer, and he's not going to do anything else about it. And he goes, that's the end. And so that's the last she ever sees him.
Yeah, she also sees him remove his necklace that she had given him and puts it around the rear view mirror too. And I was like, that's that's like his last ditch effort to get her to maybe.
And it was one of the most compelling emotional scenes in the movie for me, because it was so perfectly like scripted and choreographed of like, oh, what it's like in this pickup cab with the husband who doesn't know any better, her feeling all of these things, like being stuck behind being stuck behind him, seeing him right there, like, I don't know, that like all of that like tension and dramatic irony like was so well done there. I also thought that, chat. Like I also thought that, I mean, my first thought was, oh, he can't keep driving. He doesn't know that they're behind him. He's just like really, he's sobbing, or he's just trying to, get his wits about him. But then later on, I thought maybe there was a little bit of like sandbagging to be like, this is the last chance we ever have. Will I get out of the car? Will she get out of the car? And then eventually he pulls off.
Yeah. I just after that scene, because I think that's the best part of this, is the anticipation, her like them focusing on the door handle and her like almost turning it, and like you keep coming back, he keeps cutting back to that. But after he's turned and everything, I think that's where the scene, like that's where it is good, because like she's bawling in the passenger seat right next to him, and her husband's just like, "You okay?"
I think in the book there is something like he mutters like, women. Yeah, he says something like that in the book, which he's not made out to be a bad guy in that moment, but that's a pretty bad moment.
But yeah, you okay? She's obviously going through a whole thing right now.
I thought it was a little clever because you see her like really not okay, and then like right when he notices, she seems not okay, but not as bad as like 2 seconds earlier. You know what I mean? So they kind of like maybe did some creative editing, like probably we're sitting in the editing booth, like what can we show right before and right after he notices? And instead she looks a little more like she's tired as hell and has a headache when he's noticing finally. Whereas
she is kind of like leaning away from him.
She's burying her head into the seat and like convulsing and sobbing a little bit. So that I was like, that would be a lot worse. And then they took out the little women comment from the book. So they might have softened it a little bit. But either way, I guess it means something to her story that this is the life she chose, is with, like chat says, a very simple man who's not going to have emotional depth for her. But also, I was like, you don't have to do my boy like that. Isn't he got taken enough hit? Hasn't he had like, it's really losing out in this. I guess he gets to live with Francesca the rest of his life. That's a big win.
Yeah. And then on his deathbed, he's like, "I'm sorry I didn't give you all your dreams. I'm gonna
Yeah.
die now."
Yeah, so they tried to like yeah, I guess they try to make him seem decent, or that like I don't know. It's such a hard thing to do that she's not staying with an abusive man, and she's not necessarily staying with an unloving man. She's staying with somebody who can't give her a deeper excitement, adventure, passion, and love in life. Doesn't seem to even know that he's not giving her that.
Yeah. Communication. That's what is needed here.
Communication.
He can't quote Yates to her.
Mhm.
He can't make photos.
I thought they put in the movie. There's like a quick scene that night in the book, the night they get home, where he's concerned about her, sees that something's wrong, but she won't come to bed. She keeps staying on the porch, and she says to herself, like, "I don't know. I just want to be quiet. I want to be where it's quiet right now. I can't hear the sounds of my family, and I'm scared if I go to bed, my husband's going to try to sleep with me, and I don't know if I can handle that right now," which is pretty intense.
Yeah, geez. I always liked Clint Eastwood never says he takes photos. He only says he makes photos. I really like
Yeah.
that.
Actually, I think that's from the book because I think she either out loud or in her head goes, "Oh my God, he makes photos.
Yeah.
He's so artistic."
It's such an artist thing to do.
Yeah.
All right. Who's your favorite character? Or did you feel like, I mean, I don't think there was a scene stealer unless you count the.
I mean, it's just Meryl Streep all the way. I mean,
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood, like I said, it's one of his stronger performances. It might be a weaker one for Meryl, but I mean, she just owns any movie she's in, and in a movie with basically two characters, yeah, she wins it all.
Yeah, that's kind of how last week went too. Like I obviously in Before Sunrise, I had a favorite character that I was drawn to, but they're so good. Like when they're together, that it's just
What was it? Was it Ethan Hawke?
No, it was Julie Delpy.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke over the years it was a different conversation. He's got a little cringe, but she kind of struggles to with her accent too. I think in English to keep up such like fast dialogue.
Yeah. No. She is the. I've had this conversation several times. The manic pixie dream girl of that movie, in a movie that shouldn't have a manic pixie dream girl.
Right. Yeah. Truly, they're trying to avoid the tropes of youth while making them youthful. So
yeah, and they're both just two idealistic kids that talk a lot of bullshit, and it's whatever.
But don't really know anything.
Yeah, that don't know anything, and both of them do it. She's just more eloquent, and because she's French, it comes off better too.
Yeah, truly.
And he's just an idiot, but that's another story. All right, favorite quotes from this movie.
When she the first night is like, "Oh, you don't have to tell me these stories. I'm just a housewife, is in the middle of nowhere." And he says, "This is your home. This isn't nowhere." It's a pretty great line.
It's a good line. Let's see here. I don't think this is a great line, but Robert says the old dreams were good dreams. They didn't work out, but I'm glad I had them. Like that's some line that I feel like that's some line he's delivered time and time again.
It's in the book. It's definitely in the book, that line and how important that is to the theme. I think the author of the book, when Janet Maslin calls him self-congratulatory, is like, yeah, I have deep thoughts and I'm a poet too. But poetry's subjective. To me, it's not very great poetry, nor is it a very deep thought, nor is it that meaningful, I guess. But I guess it's just like, hey, not everything works out, but at least I tried, kind of thing.
Yeah,
it is a thesis statement of the movie.
The only thing I think about it is that it is earlier when they're having when they're early in their relationship, the 4 days. He says it early enough to where I think this is something that he has said to other women in this situation, and it shows off his artistic side and shows off that he has deeper thoughts. But then obviously she isn't like all the other women he's probably slept with across the world. So that's the only thing that I can think of, and that's why I wrote it down.
Yeah, no, totally. It's an important quote, and it's not a horrible quote either. But there's a lot of those that, in the context of the emotion that the movie compellingly gives me, like that there are lines that when I read them out of context as just standalone quotes, don't really carry the weight that they feel in the moment because all of the other elements aren't there. So I think it's like that. So it's an important quote in the movie. I do think it's a hard line for the movie to walk, and the book because it's a book, can do it better. where you get to know who he really is and who he's been for years a little bit better, just in 10 pages. Where he is kind of like a guy who is not great with women. He's not a Casanova, but he does like kind of stumble into some like happy affairs everywhere he travels because he has this kind of magnetism and is like lone wolf, sensitive, but also very manly thing. The book goes, oh my God, dude, the book goes into this whole thing that works well, I'm sure, but is a little bit annoying, where like he keeps talking about how he's a man who's on like a dying branch of evolution. Like he's the last man who'll ever be this. She keeps thinking of him as the last cowboy that's ever existed. You know, like men will never be like this again. People will never be like this again. This is a dying breed. He's one of a kind. Nobody could like master sensitivity, poetry, but like rugged jeans and boots like this well ever again. And so that's a little fucking shut the fuck up. But and the book's very proud of itself. That's clearly what the author of that book wanted to be. He named the character himself. That's like how he was writing his favorite version of himself, right? To be the cowboy poet, the poet laureate of the West, Dalton Wilcox. So there's a lot more of those like themes of who he is as a person that are hard to bring across in the movie, and the movie does have to walk this delicate line of like he's not running a game on her, and Stephen has to say in the big fight scene like, oh, are you going to be somewhere in like Romania talking to some woman there, giving her the same lines, and I'm going to be one of those like happy adventures you had that she falls in love with.
Yeah. Other lines that you like?
The best line in the movie is obviously, so do you want more eggs, or should we just fuck on the linoleum one last time?
That's great. Such a good line. Good breakfast line. And they got away with, this is like one of the only times, this is a PG-13 movie. I'll go ahead and ruin that fun fact. PG-13 movie, and this is the only times that the F word's been said in a way to talk about sex. And not just like a fuck you. This is, hey, should we fuck on the linoleum? And they got away with it because Clint Eastwood, appealed, and he's Clint Eastwood. So
and he's Clint Eastwood.
Sure, whatever.
A big dick Hollywood star moment, right? Where the MPAA is like, no, we have rules. That's a rated R movie now. And then he was like, what if it wasn't though? And they're like, okay, Mr. Eastwood, absolutely, whatever you
I'm pretty sure they even showed.
Tell me if this is a rated R movie. There's some nudity too, but
yeah.
I don't know. Like its themes are not they're not adult, they're not salacious, they're not corrupting the youth. I don't know. Like it's a nice movie. just
let that lady open her robe and show her titties to the wind. It's okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What do you think? Not necessarily minor. Young people of a certain age should watch that movie to appreciate the inner lives and the sexual lives of people in middle age, and what's important and what people end up regretting. I think it's a pretty wholesome movie for most audiences.
Yeah, I think so too. One of my favorite lines of Francesca's is, I was just going to have some iced tea and split the atom, but that can wait.
That was a good line. I will say, that reminds me, like, both these characters are a little boring to me. Their love becomes compelling at multiple points, and I like the movie, but especially in the book, there's very much like, never in the world has there ever been a woman like that again. Never in the world will there ever be a man quite like, Robert Kincaid. And I'm like, I don't know. These guys they seem like cool people, but they don't. I mean, like, what details are you pulling that from? The fact that he paid attention to you, or the fact that she made one sweet tea and atom cracking joke? Like, what else is there about her that you so in love with? But I mean, that's fine. I can go with the movie and be like, this is about what they feel for each other, not about what the audience needs to feel for these characters. But that was one moment where she had some personality, where a lot of the movie she doesn't have a lot of personality.
Yeah. Other things?
One last line, and it is the brandy thing. That is a good metaphor in the book, because it's explained outside of the dialogue. At the end, when he's kind of hurt her feelings on day one and is leaving, he says, hey, why don't you keep the brandy toward the front of the closet? Maybe it'll work out for you eventually, or something like that. The front of the cupboard, cabinet. Keep the brandy toward the front of the cabinet. Maybe it'll work out for you eventually. When she's like going through her internal monologue that day and wants to keep him around, but there's no more beer, she remembers there's a dusty bottle of brandy. She tries to clean the glasses without him seeing because they're also dusty. But she's like, he knows that I'm not a person who has fun and drinks, or like, he knows how, like, there's a metaphor about this dusty bottle of brandy of like, we don't have an adventure in this house. I don't have fun in this house. And he kind of like makes a little comment that like kind of brings that she's pretending like this is a normal thing for her to do when he can tell it's not. And after he's hurt her feelings and thinks he'll never see her again, he says, keep the brandy toward the front of the cabinet. You know, you'll get there one day, as in like, hey, take more chances like this with me, not necessarily with me, with anybody in life, you know, like, and then the last line is probably the one the moviegoers would remember the most, which is in that scene is where he says, by the way, Francesca, you're not a simple woman, you know, don't call yourself that. And I thought that was a really good metaphor. The next day when she goes out and buys a dress, she gets a new bottle of brandy in the book. After they break up or whatever, she talks about how that bottle of brandy was used once or twice, but never fully finished. In the movie, you see the two kids at the very last time you see them toasting the brandy that they find, and it's the last bit of the bottle that she first shared with him.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's a pretty good running metaphor, and it's a good line for, you know, where she is in life. So that was my last quote.
Okay. Probably the biggest quote of and I'm curious if I think it's longer in the book, but this kind of certainty comes but just once in a lifetime. That's supposed to be like the big, you know.
Yeah, I think that's part of like a 3-paragraph like monologue.
Yeah, but in the book or in the movie, it is just Clint Eastwood storming out and saying this kind of certainty comes but just once in a lifetime. And then he goes off, and that's the last time they talk.
That scene's really good. That's their breakup scene. I like how quiet it was and how still the camera was.
Yeah.
And I think that while this movie could be like accused and rightfully of like being very sentimental and gauzy and breezy about like this love affair, I think that it probably like retains a lot of quality because there are these moments where they keep the camera still and there's not a lot of score music going on. And it's just, you're just watching them exist in this small dark room together. Which is really good. But then I remember the music swells right as he says that line and the camera pulls in on his face.
Yeah, it pulls right into his face. Yeah. Yep. Because the louder scene is actually the breakfast scene. You get the harsh line about the eggs and fucking on the linoleum. But you also, my favorite part, and it's the only reason I wrote it down, is now what I want to keep it up. Now what I want to keep it forever. I want to love you the way I do now for the rest of my life. But if we leave, we lose it. And I can't make an entire life disappear to start a new one. All I can do is try to hold on to the both of us somewhere inside of me, and you have to help me. And she she says, you have to help me. And that's when she like collapses into him. And that's good. That's really good.
It is good. It's great. Yeah, that's a great scene. This movie is like dotted with like eye rolling and then dotted with like very
that's what I felt. Yeah, that is exactly what I felt when I was watching this. I was like, oh, this is really good. Oh, that's not so good. Biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill?
Madge was pretty funny.
Madge is pretty funny.
She just comes in like a whirlwind. She's got a million things to say.
She's got a lot to talk about.
And the last thing she says, it's pretty hot, isn't it? And Meryl Streep just like trying not to cry with her hand.
Yeah, I've got a man upstairs. Please don't go out past the barn where his truck is parked. Like, Jesus, just get out of my house. I'm dying inside. The truck scene, I think, is probably the most cry-worthy scene.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for cry. I mean, she has the speech that is a little women's lib, like 50s, 60s, Gloria Steinem style speech in the middle about like, you don't understand like what it's like to be a woman when you get married, you have kids, you start a new life, but a part of you dies too, and you get sucked up in the details. And that was very like a Room of One's Own or Mrs. Dalloway, like Virginia Woolf vibes going on in that speech. And so there are moments when I just wrote like lonely housewife stuff. Like there are just a lot of different moments in the movie where you really feel how like sad it is to be in a house and family full of love, but still not to be seen as a full person or allowed to be fully fulfilled. So that stuff was sad and makes the silliness of their affair actually more sympathetic to me.
Yeah. Any other scenes for those?
For thrills, I mean, you know what? Here's another quote, basically a thrill. I like I said before, I like day one when there's all this anticipation of when they're going to cross the next line. We're going to take a step next to each other. But there's that moment when she's at the sink and he walks up to her and goes, we're not doing anything wrong, you know, like, because he can tell that she's worried that they are.
Yeah.
But he's also, by saying that, inviting her to do something wrong. Fucking great. That was awesome. Yeah, and so that's why a lot of the thrills were in the build up, the anticipation, the will they, won't they, who's going to make the first step into a greater form of intimacy. Yeah, I thought that stuff was great.
See, one of the things I'll say is like, I knew that she was into him way before I knew he was into her. Like she played it off better, I guess. And even in like a sly way. Obviously, as the audience, we can see everything, but like kind of when he shows up at the house and when she's watching him from the bridge on that day, like how interested she is in him, and like you see her fall in love with him.
She makes almost every advance, and he accepts them.
Yes.
And he'll accept them enthusiastically, where she's like, hey, do you want some brandy or something? I think I have, or maybe coffee. And then he goes, what about both? Like I'm down for like, let's spend all night doing this shit. And there's the thing with the flowers, but in the book, that's more like after he took up like 3 hours of her time, just saying, just thank you for taking me out here, that kind of thing. But mostly it's always her that says, what if you came to dinner? What if I came with you? What if you just showered here?
Yeah. So I just thought this was interesting. Most what the fuck or ridiculous moment. I've got 3.
I already talked about the kid, and this is just a book thing because they have like a whole. She says, "Let's go for a walk," and then they have like a whole conversation in the book while they walk around her pasture. But they're not even at the driveway when she's like, "You want to go back in and get drunk?" And she's like, "Yeah, okay." We didn't have to leave to do that, but.
Do you think she was scared that somebody might drive by and see them? Like that's the only thing I could.
In the book. In the picture I had in my head in the book, it's the backyard that they walk into, and it's basically dusk. And he's like, "It's cool down. It's not as hot. Like we got to kill some time together. I'd like to walk around your pasture and just look at the trees and flowers and stuff like that." And then they do some kind of before sunrise, philosophical yapping at each other, and talk. That's when they talk about Yeats a little bit more in the movie. And then she offers him brandy. But in the movie, it's like, "You want to go for a walk?" He's like, "Absolutely." 30 steps later, "You want to go back inside?"
Yeah,
sure, let's do
it. That's a good one. Yeah. I put Eastwood sandals.
Oh yeah, that was a what the fuck.
I just go, what are those? I already said the kissing scenes I didn't really love because they just didn't. Meryl's boobs.
They're not her boobs, though, right? That's a body
they are not her boobs. But you couldn't even convince me that those were her boobs anyway. Even if you're using a body double, those aren't her boobs. That is a
lot of those farm dresses.
That is a 20-year-old woman's body that they pulled from like I'm not even sure those boobs were real.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, to quote Ben Franklin, "The face ages fastest."
And he knew a lot about boobs.
Yeah.
He was a connoisseur. All right. Best music moment or score recognition.
I forget the song Dream of Me or whatever. Their first dance was a pretty good song choice.
I See Your Face Before Me by Johnny Hartman. That's who it was. Which Sinatra sings as well. So
yeah, I liked a lot of the musical choices, but they were mostly mild, and I liked that they stayed away until the right moment and didn't over insist on themselves. So I thought it was pretty good. A lot of diegetic music in the early part I like too, because again, the more music and the louder and the violins and and stuff like that, the more cheesy this all seems. It's easier to buy when the music isn't trying to like make me feel sentiment I haven't been convinced of yet.
Yeah, it wasn't like the strongest score or anything, and there are the big themes or the big love theme or whatever. I think what we get at the end of the movie when it like zooms in on his face. That's really the big moment there. All right, I'm ready. I'm ready for this here. This F, Marry, Kill. I hope you're ready for it. I have 2 different ones, so we can play either. Yeah, you're so confused now, and I love it. It's going to be the Brooklyn Bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, or the Tower Bridge.
Okay. Oh, man.
I could give you my other one if you want that.
No, you kill the Tower Bridge. You fuck Golden Gate, and you marry Brooklyn.
Okay. Why? Why fucking?
Well, the Golden Gate Bridge is just kind of sexy. It's just very, very sinuous and shiny. It's very bright and welcoming. Brooklyn Bridge is just like it's just a homie. It's been around forever. One of the greatest architectural parts of our country. May not be as pretty and impressive as it used to be, but it's still it'll never lose its value over time. It only becomes more valuable with age. And the Tower Bridge feels way too close to a lot of like people being killed for praying the wrong way, I guess. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I'm not playing
the Tower of London, which makes you think of like cells where people were just like flayed to death for.
Yes. I love that. Brooklyn Bridge is a homie.
Yeah.
My other one was Jeff Bridges, Beau Bridges, or Lloyd Bridges.
I don't know who Beau Bridges is actually. Wait, let me look
You
him
don't
up.
know who Beau Bridges is?
I know the name.
That's okay.
This guy. We'll kill this guy.
Yeah, Beau Bridges is the one you kill, definitely. Lloyd is the one you marry and you fuck Jeff.
Yeah. All
Lloyd's
right.
a comedic genius. That's what I say. From Airplane, if people don't know who Lloyd
Right,
Bridges
I see
is.
his face now. Yeah.
I think he's also in all the Hot Shots movies too.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's like
Great.
he's like the Leslie Nielsen to Steve Martin, but he's like it's Lloyd Bridges to Bill Pullman.
Yes, that's exactly it. All right, who gave the best performance?
Meryl Streep did.
Yeah, she did. She's the best. All right, if let's do a recast. If you could recast anybody, either in 1995 or 2025, who would you cast?
95. Well, I thought this was the perfect answer, and then I found out that he was connected to the project, so it made it seem like I knew what it was. But Robert Redford, I think, would have been a great.
Better, so much better.
He's very hard to find actors who can pull off that like grizzled cowboy kind of vibe, but also pull off being sensitive and passionate. Robert Redford can do that very well.
Yes, he could pull off the hippie thing too. Like,
yeah,
I think that that
Robert Redford from Spy Game, like,
and yes, like that's all I'm thinking about. The only other person I pulled other than Robert Redford was James Garner.
I'm trying to imagine. I mean, we just saw him in Maverick, right?
Right.
Yeah, he could have been good. Yeah.
He might be too cocky confident though. Like,
yeah, I don't know if I've seen him anything other than like one episode of the original Maverick TV show and like the movie Maverick. So it's hard for me to like know what his range is, but he's definitely got some of it going on. I had Harrison Ford. I think he would struggle. I don't know. He's got the quiet toughness.
Closer to the right age though.
Closer to the right age. I think he could do a decent job. I think the parts where Clint Eastwood struggled, Harrison Ford would be better at, and he could pull off the quietness, the shyness, and then the kind of like explosive, poetic, I've got thoughts and feelings. I think just maybe in the like the I can't quit you kind of moments, he might struggle.
Did you cast anybody for Francesca?
At first I had Susan Sarandon. I think better would be Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like Sigourney Weaver.
They both have like quiet, strong women vibes around them. It's hard when most Hollywood actresses are only allowed to be like the model gorgeous, right? And that kind of vibe. So it's you kind of have to like sift around to find somebody who can really pull off this role as well as a Meryl Streep. And I think Sigourney Weaver and Susan Sarandon both could.
Yeah. I know this person also was tried out for this movie, but Isabella Rossellini at the time, an actual Italian too, to be this. But yeah, those are the ones I had for 1995. Did you do any for 2025?
I only had one female, and I think it's perfect. It's Kate Winslet.
Oh, I didn't even think about Kate Winslet, but that's perfect.
It's a perfect casting for that role.
Yeah, no, she's good.
I had things and like the kind of like, oh, I'm pretty, but I'm sad. I'm not trying, and I'm kind of like beaten down a little bit. She does that really well in movies. And yeah, so she can do the passion and the like realism of being an Iowan housewife for 20 years who hasn't felt joy in a long time. I think she can carry that kind of both in looks and acting ability.
Yeah, I think of her in the Reader or Little Children, especially Little Children. She kind of nails that same role there.
She has been still doing work like that, but I'd love to see anything she does along those veins. I think she's awesome at. If she'd bring a lot of that to this role, I think she'd be great.
I thought Jessica Chastain, just because she's a little bit like Jessica Chastain, extremely beautiful woman, but also I feel like has that like Meryl Streep ability to play a little bit plainer looking, like a Glenn Close is also that kind of actor too, like very beautiful, but also like, she's Sarah Plaintill.
Absolutely.
And then I put Brad Pitt as Robert.
I thought of Brad Pitt. I played with Ray Fiennes, if he could do an American accent pretty well. I think Bryan Cranston was my most interesting thought.
Oh, I like that.
I don't know if anybody's given him a romantic role very much before, but he definitely could pull off the rest of it.
I almost put Bob Odenkirk down just because. But no, Bryan Cranston, I really like that. That's better than like Brad Pitt and Matthew McConaughey were some that I had thrown out there. I was like, they're in their 50s.
Very easily do it. Matthew McConaughey is could definitely do it. It'd be hard just because having seen them be in so many shitty rom-coms. Like, how is he going to deliver a line that's not going to make me think of like those movies? But
I like Bryan Cranston. I think you nailed this. I think you knocked this out the park.
Yeah,
you did great. So you're
Thank
awesome.
you.
Any fun facts that you discovered in this learning about this movie?
Their town they're in was the birthplace of John Wayne.
Yeah.
Fun fact. It's a fact. Is it fun? I know it's a fact. I don't know if it's fun.
Screw that guy.
Yeah. Let's see. They filmed it pretty much in order. They wanted to film it from Francesca's point of view, which I think is pretty interesting in an intimate movie like this, and with an actor like Meryl Streep. I'd be interested to see her comment about how much that may have changed her, because then she has to evolve her acting style with the actual feelings of the character over these 4 days. Seems pretty cool.
Yeah. I did read that she ended up meeting the children, the older versions of the children, for whatever reason, I guess to help her character.
Yeah, supposedly. And then I think there was a quote where the kids were like, because she was there, it really like informed our roles and helped us be a lot better. And I'm like, man, I don't know that it did, brother.
Yeah, maybe you need to talk to her again. Maybe you should talk to her.
This is my last. Oh wait, no, 2 things. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was on. It was like an IMDb trivia thing. Apparently, Clint Eastwood's girlfriend at the time really wanted to be the daughter, wanted to play a small role. And he was like, no, we can't do that. Like, we've got somebody lined up, or it's not the right thing for you. And then when she was telling the story to an interviewer or somebody, she was like, I just really wanted to meet Meryl Streep. I wanted to meet her so bad. And so I just kept asking, well, can I at least come on set, to meet her? And he was like, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Next week, tomorrow, next week, or whatever. And then finally she was like, all right, so you guys are wrapping up pretty soon. Can I come meet Meryl? And he was like, oh, she kind of wrapped yesterday. She's not even in town anymore. He just strung his girlfriend along the whole time, that just because he didn't want to introduce her to Meryl Streep.
Oh my gosh,
that's awesome. That's the reason. He might have just been like busy, distracted, and not very attentive to this thing she wanted a lot. But his girlfriend at the time told a whole long story about how all she wanted to do is meet Meryl Streep, and Clint Eastwood just kept finding ways to stop that from happening.
That's great. His girlfriend at the time was Frances Fisher. She is Kate Winslet's mother in Titanic.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know. I saw the name, but it wasn't like I wasn't on Wikipedia. It wasn't a hyperlink that I could see that somebody I knew. Yeah.
But she's been in other. She was in Unforgiven, I think, as well. So
which he directed a couple years earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was just like, nah. He was on his way out with her. They did their relationship ended in '95. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So it was probably like, I don't want you at work. Late or whatever. Anyways, I just read that in only that context, and I was like, "That's hilarious.
That's awesome." Screw you. What else did you have? You said you had another one.
The last one is the book structure is weird because it's like the frame story, then like what you would assume is in her 3 notebooks, like the story. Then there's like a bunch of letters they wrote, and then her like it's kind of split into like this like kind of extended tail end of fictionalized ephemera, like a news article or a letter here or what she got from the lawyer. And then at the end, the guy, the author, pretending that it's a real story, said, I wanted to figure out more about what happened to Kincaid. So I went and asked around. And he's like, and I found somebody. He's like, oh, well, I know he used to hang out like at music houses. So we asked around at music houses, and he finds an old like horn player, like a trumpet player or something. And the last 3 books are interviews. It's called Interview with Tacoma Slim or whatever the musician's name was. And it's just like, has nothing to do with the love story. It's just, well, it does have something to do with the love story, but it's 3 pages that is written in this Black musician's voice. So the last 3 pages of the entire book are just kind of cringy dialect. I mean, it's just, I'm not doing an accent, but it's stuff like, yeah, I've been knowing Mr. Kincaid for quite a while, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why is this in the book?
Choice. That's a choice.
Yeah. So it was not, it was a good thing to cut out. I mean, I guess you could hire a Black actor and it wouldn't feel as cringe on screen. And there was actually sweet moments where he was like, he eventually opened me up about that, that necklace he wore that said Francesca on it, and he sobbed his eyes out. And I've never met a man who like loved a woman that much, so I wrote this song called Francesca for him. Anyways, but it's just kind of cringe that out of nowhere, this new character, after the whole love affair is over, gets introduced, and then the last 3 pages are him. A literary blackface is what I would call it.
Yeah. I love that. The only other one I had that I haven't already mentioned was that the letter that she's reading after like 2 hours in, Francesca reads Robert's letter. There's a bunch of grammatical and spelling errors.
I do read that.
Yeah, where they're missing like the word "no" is missing from an entire. Like he says, "I don't know when you'll receive it." It's not even in the sentence.
Yeah.
Directions is misspelled. Just good stuff there.
And it's in the written letter. Like
yes,
yeah, right.
So you'd have to be like pause it just to see it. So it's
somebody,
not that
some prod master was writing that while somebody else was talking to them about.
Yeah, it's like okay, yeah, I got this. Okay, so like a fine wine and dish, if you could pair this movie with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose?
I think I got some good ones. They're the pretty obvious ones. Love Story. It's just paired as like a movie for a similar audience that has similar sentimentality. Heartbreak at the end, but man, what a love story.
Yeah,
Brief Encounter. I kind of got Love Story. I've never seen Love Story either, but I know a lot about it, and I got some of the plot elements confused with Bridges in Madison County. But I can't tell you what they are without spoiling Love Story.
Okay. What was your second one? Sorry, I talked over.
Brief Encounter by David Lean is about a fast love affair in the midst of war. Thought it was a pretty good a similarity. But then the obvious one is Out of Africa, which is one of Meryl Streep's best movies of all time. And it's about a married woman who lives in Africa, like a kind of not necessarily on like a working plantation, but like married to like a young woman married to like a rich white man in Africa who's exploiting it somehow, unhappy, very lonely. And then like a Harvey Keitel and the piano kind of dude shows up, and they have a torrid love affair.
Yeah, I had Out of Africa on my list as well. I've never seen it, but yeah, I know details about it. And
I saw it a long time ago, but I remember being pretty impressed by it.
Yeah. Is that it for you?
I have one last one, and it's kind of a meme, but it is correct. Titanic, because these are two women who have whole families and live their whole lives with a husband, but spend the last moments of their lives making everything about that one dude they fucked for a week 40 years ago.
That's so good. I love that.
Both those. I don't know if you've ever seen those memes about Titanic. Like this woman's dying and dies in the boat, not around her family who she spent the last 60 years with, just to talk about that one poor guy she fucked in a boat, in the 1920s. That's kind of what's happening here too. Everything's about this one guy. You're like, yeah, fuck that. He's gone.
That's great. I put Remains of the Day on here too. Another unrequited love. And then Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
No, I've never seen it.
You would love it. I think you would love
Jane
that
Campion?
movie. It is. What is her name? Shit.
That's why I thought it was Jane Campion, because it's a.
It is a French movie.
Yeah, but it's a female director, maybe.
Yes. You've probably seen some of her other films. Siama or something like that. I feel like is her last name.
Celine Sciamma. Yeah. Jane Campion did direct a film called The Portrait of a Lady.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if they're related, but that's also
this one got set on fire. So
yeah, right.
No, this is a great movie. You should watch it. Another kind of one of those, like these people meet in circumstances and obviously can never be together, but they still hold on to that love. Yeah, great movie. Okay, so quick question, not a big question. Quick question. Would you want to know if your mom had had an affair? When you were a teenager?
Yeah.
I would too, right?
I guess so. I mean, like, if I was a teenager, like, would I want my mom to, like, run away with the guy, and then I have to figure out what I feel about that and what I feel about dad and my hometown and all that at 17? I don't know if I would want that. That obviously would be very difficult to deal with.
But would you want to know?
Wild to understand.
Would you? Okay, your mom. Your fake mom she dies. She leaves you these journals where she talks about that she wanted to do this, but now she's very sad that she stayed with.
Then I'd be like, I wish you had.
Yeah,
because I have no sympathy for my 18-year-old self dealing with that. All right, but I mean, it'd be a difficult thing to go through, and I think she's I don't know that she makes the right or wrong decision. I don't really have a judgment on that. But like, she's not wrong. I don't know. People might hate, like, well, why are you loyal to the shitty husband and these bratty kids? It's like, no, she's like, this will like destroy their lives for 10 years,
Yeah.
and affect them forever. And I can't just do that without thinking about it. She might still be able to decide to go, but she needs to think about that. That's a legitimate thing. But if I've like uncovered it after she's passed and she's like, I just want you to know that like I fucked like crazy for a week while you guys were out of Bible camp, I'd be like, good for you, Mom.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's where I stand on it. I know there's a couple people that would not agree with me on that.
I'm still hoping my mom realizes she's gay, leaves my dad, runs away, and has a lot of old lady gay sex on a beach somewhere for the rest of her life. I think she deserves it.
I hope that for her too. No, but I'm like, any journals that I find or I hope to find of like my parents or something that lets me know that they were real human beings for a while and not just my parents. Like, that's all I want. Like,
right.
Like,
And that's why, again, I don't think it saves it. But the one part about the kids that I liked was them being drunk on a bench and having to like deal with the fact way too late that their mom's in the 60s, that mom's all over the place, that parents all over the place are like deep beings and they're sexual beings and they have wants and needs. And even if they kind of grin and bear like doing a day-to-day life when they're raising kids or out like on a farm where there's not a lot going on, if you're not happy there, I guess. I also love this movie, like we were talking about with Nobody's Fool, that it is about older people and their rich internal lives and that their lives aren't considered to be over or they're not already completely defined as a person. So all of that's very welcome in this.
Yeah. All right. On a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to rewatch this movie?
2.
Yeah.
It'll be a long time from now, and then maybe I want to.
Maybe on another, Valentine's week, I'll find this love story and come back to it. But yeah, I think it's a 2. If you had to rate this film from 1 to 5 stars overall, what would you give it?
It's either 3 or 3.5. 3. I think 3.
Yeah, I went a little higher in the 3.5. This movie was so like I said, back and like up and down for me on moments when I was like, oh my God, that was really great. And that was some good acting and like the story is so good. And then another scene would take me out of it completely. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like,
it also, even the book too, like it gets subjective, like an extra half or point for being subjectively refreshing for me. Because we don't see movies like this anymore, because I wouldn't mind reading books and watching movies about like dramatic, sentimental love affairs, but I don't know how to wade through whatever crap is out there to find something that's, for me, my taste personally, is worth reading. And I just don't think the movies really exist outside of like, like targeted at women, made for TV kind of stuff. So it gives like subjective points because it feels fresh, even as it's old. For me to watch something like this, but I think at its heart, it's a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm for that. Well, thank you, Ryan. And your name, I read that in Francesca's accent. So
I owe my family.
I owe my family an apology.
I didn't even think about that, but that works even better now.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan. Before we wrap up, have you any recent movie recommendations that you'd love to tell people about?
Lots of them, but for time's sake, I'll just bring up the movie you brought up to me recently while doing a podcast. I watched a lot of Alfred Hitchcock, rewatched some, watched some new things, but I saw Rope for the first time, and it's one of my favorite Hitchcock movies. It is right up my alley. I love that movie so much.
And it's super gay.
Yeah. Oh, it's so gay.
It's so gay.
It's so gay. It's so theatery. And then it's also like, it's just a great little tense mystery, boiler room, real time, lots of talking. Yeah, I love it.
Rope was great. Yeah. The only thing I've watched recently besides this movie is Moonstruck, and Moonstruck's amazing. So
wait, we're covering that one, right?
No, that movie came out in 1987. So.
That's right. I love Moonstruck. We've talked about it. That's why.
Yeah,
man. No introduction to a character will ever be more seared in my mind than the first scene with Nicolas Cage. Just in the 8th layer of hell in a French basement, piling up hundreds of baguettes just piled in the corner. And he's like, I don't got time to talk about it. I've got one hand and a quota to meet. So good.
He points at it. I'm dying laughing. I'm watching it with Yeah, what about my hand? Alyssa's like mortified as I'm watching this movie, and I'm laughing as she's like, "What the hell is this?"
I should
So good.
rewatch it. I don't remember what happens in the rest of the movie, but I do remember enjoying it all the way
Oh
through.
my god, it runs out like a play. There's an
Mhm.
end scene where like the entire family ends up getting together, and people keep coming to the house.
Yeah.
Like it's so good. Very funny, very lovely. Cher's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. Well, thank you, Ryan, again for everything that you do, and thank you for doing this with me. Of course, you can get all more information about root movie recommendations and things like that on our Discord server. You can also follow us on Instagram or check out my account on Letterboxd, and you can do that through the links below. Sunday, February 16th, we'll continue this theme. You Love Me, You Really Love Me, where all the movies are centered around romance. And our next movie will be While You Were Sleeping, starring Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman. We've already mentioned him once today. And that is streaming on Disney Plus and as well as other places. Also, we have the extra credit thing going on right now, which we're doing Spencer's Super Sweet Month of Movies, which are all films liked by frequent collaborator Spencer, like House Guest, Man of the House, Bushwhacked, and Tom and Huck. Bushwhacked is a little hard to find, so if anybody wants to post a link to where they found it, that'd be great. And that podcast will be on Wednesday, February 26th. Also, we still have our other sister podcast, 52/1995 Music. You can join us Tuesdays for that at 6 p.m. Eastern. This week's album is The Woman in Me by Shania Twain. So,
Any man of mine.
Any man of mine. So tune into that tomorrow. But thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for all the follows and everything that you all do as in the audience. So we'll see you next time on 52/1995.